All right, let's do some little tidying here. Those comments aren't really relevant. Get rid of that extra line. And now we're basically done. We just need to make sure our code works. So we'll run test sort, and we get, something broke. Okay, so we'll go to swap. And the issue seems to be index out of bounds exception. A must be 4. So I'd like to see the context when that happens. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say my condition is that A equals 4. Okay. So if you didn't know you could do that with breakpoints, you can. And with that condition, I can now run my code and go straight to the issue. So when I do that, the code runs, and I will use the visualizer and see the context that I'm in. So if I look here, here's my sequence of sort calls. And the most recent sort call had start 4, smallest index 3, and x is our array. And so I'll note there's actually an issue here. Start 4 is not a great thing, right? That's where A came from. The problem we're running into is that we're trying to access index 4. It doesn't exist. And so the issue is that somehow start has gotten too large. Okay, well, it's a recursive method, and some of you might have been earlier like, base case, base case. Yes, we forgot the base case. And so we need to note that if start ever gets too big, in other words, if start gets to be as large as the array itself, in this case 4, then we should return. So that fixes that bug. We've fixed our forgotten base case, and now we'll try running again. Okay, we run again, and okay, so there's still a bug, and this one seems a little trickier. So and have. All right, we'll get rid of that breakpoint. And so now I need to somehow find the issue. Now, you can, in theory, post on Piazza, go to Stack Overflow, talk to somebody else, but it is an incredibly important skill to know what to do when you get to this point. This is the difference between someone who gets totally annihilated working on large projects for a course or in real life, and someone who's able to go the distance and make their code work. This is just an incredibly important skill. So I'll just walk through the process that I use. I don't know if it'll be the best. I haven't practiced this particular moment yet, so we'll see how it goes. The problem is that my array is not correct at the end. And so my intuition is I'd like to see, I don't know, every time we're going to swap and see when the first swap happens that's not right. Okay? That's just a rough sense because I have that nice visualizer where I can see everything as it goes. So let's run our code again and watch our swaps. So when we visualize, we have I have an egg and an egg have I. Okay, so the first swap that happens, we have an entire array. The smallest thing is an, okay, as I expect. And so I'll step over this line and we see an swaps with I. Okay, that seems really good. That's what I expect to happen. The smallest item gets swapped. So then we'll run until we get to the next swap. So now we have an have I egg. And what we're trying to get to is an egg have I. And so what we expect now is that since start is 1, right, we're only looking at the last 3 items here. You can think of these as the green ones. The smallest item now, H-I-E, okay, egg should be the smallest. So we expect egg to go to 1. So we step and we see, actually, no, egg and did not get swapped into position 1. Instead, have and got swapped. So that seems super bad, okay? So at that moment, what I've just done is I've seen that reality is not matching my expectation. I had a hypothesis about the way the world should function, and it has been just totally dashed. So let's try again. Get a sense of what's going on, okay? So the first moment, that's the critical moment. You know something weird happened there, and you know that somewhere in between that first swap and that second swap, something was wrong. So the bug had to have happened in between those 2 moments in time, okay? So again, we'll go be a little more cautious now, and we'll step here and say, and have I egg. And there's a couple different things I could do now. I could just step forward until something happens that I don't expect, or I could continue to the next time we get the swap and see if I can arrive at, like, that something's wrong with the variables that I have so far. Okay, I guess I'll do the latter. Either way, I mean, either approach is fine. So I'll go to the step when I have a problem, and here I'll look and I'll see, okay, well, the issue it seems to be is that smallest index is 0, okay? Which I can actually see right here. And I don't think smallest index should be 0. Smallest index should actually be 3, because the smallest item starting at start should be 1. Okay, so let's try one more time. Now this is probably something that would be better if you were doing it than watching me. But hopefully you're still getting something out of this. Okay, so my reasoning now is, okay, I'm starting back over. Okay, the first swap works fine. And now I'm actually just going to go step by step and see what's going on. So let's step into the next one. Okay, so start's not length. We got to find the smallest index. Okay, this is where something's going wrong. I know that. Right? I know that the answer is going to be 0, but I expect it to be 3. So let's see why. Okay, so we step in to find smallest. And when we run this code, okay, so find smallest. All right, maybe we'll make this a little bigger. So we step through and we're looking through the array. Da, 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 da. Okay, my eyes glazed over a little. All right, because who wants to look at all that detail? That happens when you're debugging. Okay, maybe I'm going to take a step back and think carefully about what's going on here. Okay, so maybe this time I hit the debug button again. Okay, so debugging can be a little like messy, and you got to do a lot of thinking as you go. So starting the debugger back over yet again. Okay, so now I'm looking, like what is going on here? Okay, so I look. That's the first swap. Okay, next. We get here, and now we're back to the point where it's giving us the wrong answer. So find smallest, it should give us 3, and it's giving us 0. Okay, and why? Okay, so now I'm just going to step back and think about what find smallest does. So I look at find smallest, and it says, return the index of the smallest string in X. Oh, well, the smallest string in X, actually, if I just read the comment, it is an. So actually, the problem is that find smallest is broken. I have a design flaw in find smallest. It shouldn't be finding the smallest string in X. It should be from a particular starting point. Okay, so in other words, what we've got here is there's just this big flaw in find smallest. We need it to go from a particular starting point. Okay, so let's do that. So to fix find smallest, we need to say it needs to be from a particular start, starting at start. Okay. And the difference is that rather than starting at start, or at 0, we're going to start at start, okay? And, you know, it's been a while since I wrote find smallest, so my memory may not be so good about how it works. So this needs to be from start. And so I'm a little anxious that maybe I broke find smallest. So let's step back from the sorting process, okay? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, let's not work on test sort for the moment. Let's do test find smallest. Okay. Find smallest has to go from a particular position now, so I need to change the test. How about over here? If we sort or search this array, let's say we start at position 1, or let's see. If we start at position 2, oops, then we expect the answer to be 2. Okay. So at that point, if I now run this test, okay, find smallest, the new find smallest works. Okay, so that's good. So now we're going to see if sort works as a whole. Okay, so I'll get rid of that comment, put this one back, and now when we run it, it seems to work. Okay, so probably now sort works. We could make a bigger test to check, but I feel pretty good that it works just because, I mean, I know what all the bugs are that I made semi on purpose in order to get my answer. Okay, so that's a rough picture of what the debugging process looks like. And let me point out some really important things about that process. You'll note that when I was fixing the sort method, I had to end up changing entirely the signature and the nature of my find smallest method. So there's just a lot of stuff to juggle in my brain at once. But what's so great about testing is I can temporarily set aside the problem of sorting and focus only on the find smallest problem. And it lets me keep what needs to be in my brain as small as possible, which is such an incredibly important point. Okay, so we made a lot of changes along the way. And so at this point, we have now built a correct selection sort, and the way it worked was as follows. Okay. And this very tricky part at the end, using the debugger, that's a skill I want you to get really good at. And what's so great about writing your own tests and having them right there with you is that you can use that to scaffold your thinking and keep what needs to fit in your brain as simple as possible. So we'll do a little more reflection in a moment. We'll call it a day on this particular video, and we'll talk more in a sec.